Welcome back to Art Party Now. I'm John McLane, the artist, and today we're going to draw another one of my favorite characters of all time and one of the most iconic figures of the last century. I'm talking about Donald Duck. So grab something to draw with and let's start the party. Alright, so as you can see, I've got Donald all sketched out with blue pencils on gray paper. And if you want to see how I get the pencil lines there from scratch, you can click the link in the description, watch the video how to draw Pinocchio with pencils. But for those of you who are ready to dive in and go straight to the Sharpies, let's rock and roll. So I've got my blotter paper underneath to keep the Sharpies from bleeding through. Got my king size Sharpie and my fine point Sharpie for the details. So hopefully by the end of this adventure, we'll all have our own representation of one of the greatest animated characters of all time. So let's go.
So we're going to start by drawing Donald's beak right in the middle of his face because everything branches out from there. So we start with the shape on the top of his beak, and then we come with a big swooping line for the bottom of his beak that kind of indicates his smile. And then we do another kind of looping shape underneath, another one parallel to that, and just a little triangle shape for the tongue. Then once we have this shape, we can put in the eyes. Make the eye that's farther away a little bit smaller, the one that's closer to us bigger. Once we have the eyes, put in the pupils with a little bit of a highlight. Fine point Sharpie for the little bitty highlight, and then put these little teardrop shapes on the top of his bill there. Then we can put some big arching eyebrows right over his eyes, and then a little bit of scraggly hair kind of coming out from behind his eyebrows. Of his hat there. I'm going to do one big curving line with the front side of his hat, another curving line with the back side, and then kind of just like this little backwards arrow shape. Now we're going to put in a little bit of scraggly hair on the back of his head there, connected to the other side of his beak, and now we've got Donald's face. So then, right from the center of the bottom of his bill, we're going to do a little kind of arrow shape for his neck, and then we can put in his bow tie. It's kind of just like a butterfly shape. Folds. And once we're there, do a couple little lines on either side of his neck to show where his collar is. And then we can start putting his arm right out of his shoulder there. And as I always say, hands are the hardest part, but with cartoons it's a little bit easier than actual anatomically accurate hands, because that's why they only draw up cartoons with 3 fingers. So it's a little bit easier to draw. fingers there. You can do the other underside of his arm, and then a little bit of a band on his wrist there for where the gold part of his coat's gonna be. So then we come over and do the other hand. I usually like to start with the thumb. And then 1, 2, and 3 fingers. A couple little lines on the bottom of the fingers there, and a little curving line to show where his palm is. We do another curving line right into his armpit. Circular line to show where his cuffs are, and then add that other little gold band there. Then right below the bow tie, put a couple oval shapes where the buttons on the front of his coat are. And we're just gonna do one big curving line underneath the bottom side of the coat. And then kind of do like a little bit of a swooping, curving, kind of scraggly tail. Space where his feet will go. So I'm right out of kind of where his tummy is. Kind of do a leg and a knee, and 3 little bumps with the webs on his feet, and a big swooping line for the heel. Same thing on the other side, 3 little toes. That's it.
All right, and there we have it. So I'm gonna speed up the video, go back and darken in some of these lines. So stick around because you won't want to miss the final result. So there's our finished drawing of Donald Duck with black Sharpies. So if you've been drawing along with me, and I hope that you have, right now would be the perfect time to adjust your lines, smooth everything out, because then the only thing left to do is color this thing in. So let's rock and roll. Alright, so that's about all I'm going to color in for right now, because as always I'm going to let my 3-year-old daughter May finish coloring this in with me and finish the party with a bang. So make sure you stick around for the rest of the coloring experience, and let's keep the party going. Alright, this is where the magic begins. I've got 2 different shades of blue and a white pencil. And I'm going to use all 3 of those to color Donald's eyes. All right, now that we've got Donald's eyes, I'm going to finish coloring in his clothes. So trust me, you won't want to miss this. All right, so now that we've got Donald's clothes all colored in, I'm gonna use a combination of yellow and orange to color in his beak and feet. Okay, now you're about to see the most satisfying part of this entire process. I'm gonna use white to color in Donald's feathers. This is a total game changer when you use white on colored or gray paper because it's really gonna bring Donald to life. All right, well, that about does it. I'm gonna go back and add a couple more finishing touches, so stay tuned for the final reveal. Hope you guys had fun in this episode of How to Draw Donald Duck, and we'll see you at the next art party. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If you had fun or learned anything, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing because it really does help out our channel. Thanks again and have a beautiful day. Hey guys, welcome back to Art Party Now. I'm John McLane, the artist, and today we're going to draw another one of my favorite characters of all time. You tuned in last week when we drew Donald Duck. Hope you had fun with that adventure, and I'm sure you can already guess who we're going to draw today. That's right, Daisy Duck. So grab something to draw with, and let's start the party. All right, so as you can see, we got Daisy all sketched out on pink paper with red pencils. And I've got my supersized Sharpie for the outlines, fine point Sharpie for the details. Got my blotter paper underneath to keep the Sharpies from bleeding through. And now we're gonna walk through how to draw the lines, darken them in with Sharpies, but make sure you stick around to the end because coloring this in is where the magic really happens. So let's go.
All right, so we're gonna start with Daisy's bill about 2/3 of the way up the page. Just do kind of a squiggly line for the top, a couple lines for her cheeks, and then one big curving line for the bottom of her mouth. And a little line to indicate her smile, and one curving line on top, wrapping around to get the top of her bill. We put in a little tongue, and then right on the depressions on the top of the bill, we can put in her eyes. And then we put in a couple of pupils, little circles for the highlights. And then what distinguishes Daisy from Donald is her eyelids, which we'll add eyeshadow to later. And once we get the eyes, we do a couple of little oval shapes on top of her eyes to indicate her eyebrows, and then a little bit of jagged feathering on the back of her head. And then we can put in her distinctive eyelashes. And now we know it's Daisy Duck. Then we do kind of a little curving shape for the center knot on her bow. And then a little butterfly shape on the left side. A little kind of swooping line to indicate where the fold in the bow is. And then same thing on the other side. I'm going to add in a couple little light lines for where the shadows are going to be. So now we got Daisy's face. So now we can come back and kind of put in her neck, which comes to a little point in her V-neck sweater there. And a couple of curving lines to get the cuff of her shirt. And a nice big curving line for her elbow and forearm. And then a little donut shape going around her wrist where her bracelet will be. Do one big curving line going all the way around the front of her shirt, which connects right to her back and hides right behind her arm. Then we put in a hand coming right out from where the bracelet is, 3 fingers, and then come back and do the other arm. Poofy shirt with a little tight cuff. And this hand's a little bit trickier, but if you start with the thumb, then you just got 1, 2, and 3 fingers, and then connect it right back to the cuff. And we can kind of do a line coming right down out of the bottom of her shirt for her belly. And then go over and kind of do a little bit of a jagged line for a tail, and kind of a cloud-shaped line going underneath where her legs are going to be. And we just do 2 parallel lines for her left leg, 1 line to indicate where her foot is, and then a big oval shape that goes right around all that. For where her high heel is. And another little kind of oval shape, a little point on the toe. And same thing on the other side. 2 lines with an oval shape. And a little point for the toe. And then the heel, and that's it.
All right, and there we have it. There's our outline of Daisy. So I'm gonna go back in and darken in some of these lines. So stick around because you won't want to miss the final result. Alright, so there's our finished Sharpie drawing of Daisy Duck. So you've been drawing along with me. Right now would be the perfect time to smooth out your lines, make any adjustments that you want, because the only thing left to do is color this in and this is where the fun begins. So let's keep the party going. All right, so that's about all I'm gonna color in for today, because as always, I'm gonna let my 3-year-old daughter May finish coloring the sim with me and finish the party with a bang. So make sure you stick around for the rest of the party, because this is where it gets really interesting. Okay, so this is where the fun begins. Let's use a little bit of color to bring Daisy to life. I'm gonna use a combination of white and blue pencils to color in Daisy's eyes, and purple and white to color in the eyeshadow on her eyelids. Now I'm going to use a combination of light and dark, pink and purple markers to color in Daisy's bow, her shirt, and her shoes, and a little bit of turquoise to color in her bracelet. All right, so I'm feeling like there's a little bit too much contrast between the light and dark purple in the shirt and the light and dark pink in the bow and shoes. So I'm gonna call an audible and use these giant dot markers, which is kind of a medium pink and a medium purple, to blend everything together. Now that we got Daisy's clothes looking nice and bright, we're about to take an exciting turn. So I'm gonna use a combination of yellow and orange to color in her beak and her legs. Wait till you see this finishing touch, because this part of the process always blows my mind. We're going to use white and gray paint pens to color in Daisy's feathers, which is going to make her jump off the page and really bring this character to life. All right, so the gray that I put in the shadow there came out a little bit darker than I wanted to, so I'm gonna go back with a little bit of white and brighten it up, and then do a few more freestyle finishing touches, because I think the final results are gonna be worth the effort. All right, so I think that brightening up that shadow was definitely worth it. So I hope you guys had fun in this episode of How to Draw Daisy Duck. Stay tuned for the final reveal, and make sure you check out all the other similar characters in our cartoon library. See you at the next art party. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If you had fun or learned anything, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing, because it really does help out our channel. Thanks again, and have a beautiful day.